Hi guys, so in today's video I want to help you to get to your first $10,000 in crypto. I'm going to tell you the lessons that I've learned, and I'm going to tell you the kind of steps you need to put in place along with some kind of profit taking strategy to be able to help you reach that. But before we do that, I've got to make a quick disclaimer, so please read this with care. This video is not financial advice. Crypto is volatile and highly risky. No results are guaranteed. This content's for experienced users only. There's a full legal disclaimer in the description below. Right, so for me, my personal story was I was originally in crypto in 2017, back in Bitcoin. I didn't really know very much about it, but my brother told me to buy a little bit back in the first run that we had, and ended up just holding it and not doing much with it, but ended up selling some of it later in 2021. But it wasn't very much. It was like maybe $50, but that was my first kind of dabble into crypto. And again, back in 2021, during the absolute mega run that we had, I got involved in ADA around the 180 mark, so it was kind of a little bit, well, around halfway through the bull market for ADA, and essentially I just held it all the way down. I didn't understand how bull markets worked, but what I did know was that crypto and things repeat given enough time. At least that was always my thesis. So what I've done since then is I basically bought all the way down throughout all the last 2.5 to 3 years here. It's been a very, very long time, and now we're starting to finally see it come up. But again, there was some pain in this. I think I had about $700 or something in ADA at this time, so it's a lot of money just to kind of watch essentially evaporate. But let's go into it. So again, for this kind of journey, I'm going to assume that you have $1,000 to invest, and you're trying to get to that 10k, and if that's even possible. So the first thing I would do is avoid Bitcoin, because at this point Bitcoin is too far gone for the smaller investor. In my opinion, this cycle, we've already had a 10x on Bitcoin this cycle so far. It's not going to 10x from here. And again, you've probably seen this here with this guy. The 10 euros got you 10,000 Bitcoin at the same time. It's unbelievable now, kind of the growth that we've seen in this space. But again, personally for me, small investor, just a short, avoid it. The market cap's too big. Too much money would need to come to make any significant returns. But if you compare to the stock market, yes, you probably could get a decent return still from now. But anyway, let's avoid this. It might be disappointing to hear, but I'm just being a realist, guys. I want you guys to win, and I want to provide as much value as I can. The market cap is too high simply for Bitcoin. Next thing is ETH. So ETH now is becoming slightly harder to get multiple X's since we've seen the run up over the last month or so. I'm sure you guys have seen ETH. It's been an absolutely crazy run over the last couple of months. We've just seen it pretty much go from 1.6k, shot up to what, nearly 3.9k there, so it's absolutely shot up there. So again, that's kind of made the return slightly diminished, but it doesn't mean we still can't get a decent return out of it. A lot of people are predicting a $10,000 ETH. I still think that's on the cards, but let's see. Again, like I said, to get to that 10,000, maybe it's worth putting $100 in there to get maybe a 2-3x. But again, with this challenge, I suppose you can call it, of getting to 10,000, I personally wouldn't do it. So what does this mean? Well, subsequently, we need to move down into altcoins, and in order to make the returns necessary to reach the 10k. By no means am I saying you shouldn't buy these coins. I'm just demonstrating that theoretically, this was how you can get closer to the 10,000 mark from the 1,000. Cool. So one example here is ADA. I believe ADA just about hit the $3 mark back in 2021, peak bull. And again, what's really interesting about this is that this price was achieved before so much of the developments that have happened during the bull market. And I'm just going to list a couple examples here. I'm not listing all of them, but just some of them that have kind of happened. But again, the first point here really was that ADA hadn't really started its roadmap, and it was primarily speculation at that point. Hadn't really built anything. I think staking might have just come into place, but other than that, there wasn't really much. A lot of the narrative was just about it was kind of a blockchain that was able to help in Africa, and as well as it being a peer-to-peer kind of academic like research and kind of fundamentals, and that I think was the key point back then. But since then, we've seen the Hydra, we've seen the Bitcoin OS integration, we've also seen Midnight stablecoin, the privacy coin that's going to be coming out soon. There's going to be some airdrops, so again, just for any ADA holders, you're going to receive some Midnight, so that's essentially some free money, which is pretty cool. got Dubai police actually using Cardano, so that's been recognised by countries, which is really, really cool to see. The founder, Charles Hoskinson, is the co-founder of Ethereum, so again, he's been in this game for a while, he understands the space, and he knows what he's doing, in my opinion. The US government are now getting interested in it. Again, we're seeing the likes of the Strategic Reserve, etc., and then institutional interest in the game, along with the ETFs, which we're starting to see. Now, ADA is getting more and more likely to have an ETF just for itself. I know it's involved in other ETFs as well, so it's looking really, really positive. And another caveat here is that there were significantly less crypto holders back in 2021, so now we've got 562 million versus 300 back in 2021, the absolute peak. So crypto is growing, there's more interest, and there's more people, and there's more money. So, when you add these things together, so again, based on that, how can we estimate the price potential? So we're going to do this by comparing against Ethereum, because this is the main altcoin. In my opinion, it's like essentially one cycle ahead of Cardano. So the top for Ethereum was a 552 billion market cap, and again, that was before any kind of real institutional investment. With ADA at the moment sitting at 29 billion market cap, if it was able to reach just half of what ETH did last run, this would put it at around 9 to 10x from current levels. So at conservative level, considering all the things I mentioned above, I think it's a realistic price range for ADA to hit somewhere between 5 to 7. I mean, that's not quite a 10x, but that's still a very, very good return. I mean, this doesn't mean that I'm holding for these levels, but profit taking will occur much earlier for me personally, as I bought quite a lot lower throughout the bear market, and I'm going to scale out in 20% marks. Again, this is where some of you guys coming in here to get that 1,000 to 10,000. We can potentially see an $8 to $12 ADA. That is definitely on the cards, but you need to consider the fact that a lot of these things would need to happen. We need quantitative easing to happen. We need Bitcoin to hit $250k. ADA would need to maintain a 4.5% market dominance, and most likely we would need the Fed to cut the rates. I think that's probably the most important one at the moment with the business cycle. So again, this would be one to allocate into, potentially, if you were looking to get this kind of return that we mentioned earlier. But cool. The next one is Render. Render with the AI narrative. So again, despite the current action that we've seen at the moment, there's so much to be bullish on for Render. Like almost every time in crypto, having strong conviction in your coins is what helps you to see out the investment and ultimately makes the money. And again, when Render moves, it really, really moves. So we saw back in 2023, as we just kind of entered Q1 in 2024, that Render went from $1.5 to 13.5 in the space of a couple of months. Again, you might be asking why, and what is Render? So Render is essentially an AI coin. Render powers GPU rendering for AI, gaming, and 3D content, and it's in a market which is absolutely booming right now. Again, it's got incredibly strong partnerships, backed by names like Apple, and Nvidia is a key partnership there, so they have incredible ones with companies actually making money. That is the important thing. The partnerships with absolutely massive giants worldwide, which are really making money, like crazy money. Again, tokenomics and the network, it's on Solana, which means it's fast, it's cheaper, and it's going to have more adoption compared to ETH, for example. And that's not me saying anything bad about Ethereum. I just think that Solana is slightly better in this case for Render because of the adoption. I think it will get more adoption being on Solana than it will being on ETH. Again, like I mentioned with the AI and the GPUs, I'm not sure if you guys have seen the GPU prices recently, but they're up 10 to 15% the past year or so. It's absolutely crazy. I don't know if you guys have ever tried to buy a PC or something. They have just been blown absolutely out the water. So again, Nvidia, the one with the partnership, it's the largest stock in the world by market cap. They are just doing absolutely incredible. So you line a couple of those things up and you think, okay, AI narrative, big partnerships, it's on the kind of Solana network. I think it's got a decent chance, and it's got a relatively low market cap. Render does, not Nvidia. So again, you think that's cute, Tookie. I don't really care. I want to make some money. What should I do? So looking at the market cap, Render's market cap is pretty low, which is really quite exciting. Sitting around 2.1 billion. And again, as you may or may not know, market cap is defined by the total value of a cryptocurrency found by multiplying its current price by the number of coins in circulations. because it helps to show the size and importance. But to be honest, I'm just going to say that I think it is the total amount of money that a project is worth in the market. That's what I define it as. Like I mentioned, 2.1 is relatively low, a lot of room to grow. And again, I'm going to have to compare it to something. I think ETH is 2 cycles away really from render, so I don't really think it's fair to compare that against. But I'm going to compare it to Solana and just kind of show you its potential here in a real life kind of example. So Solana went from 93 million to 71 billion in the last run, which was a 71x. And I'm nowhere near saying that render can do that this run. But this is where the interesting part comes in. Even if it could just do a third of what Sol did last run, this would give it a market cap of around $24. So not even 3/4 of what Sol did, not even half, around a third of what it could do would get it in a really good stick. And again, all these partnerships, we've got the money flowing in from, the partnerships, businesses making money on the Sol network, the narrative, the AI. We've got lots and lots to be positive to. And even if it's just a quarter, we still make a lot of money. From this current point, this a third of what Solana did would give us a clean 11x opportunity. And I think it's really, really interesting to see. And I think, in my opinion, it's better to kind of be diversified, like I said, the ADAs, the renders, rather than the Bitcoins and ETHs, because these are the ones that are going to be able to make you some money. I think you'll struggle to really make any serious money when it comes to the other ones, unless you're a big player now and you've got a lot of money. But the 20% chunk out, sellout method would apply. It would essentially be the same thing. 20% out like that, 20% like that, 20 like that, 20, and then you leave 20% to run like that. This would in theory give you a moon bag for the last run, and by the second sellout you would have already made all your money. So you're all good. So again, hopefully guys, this kind of gives you an idea of how you can get to your first $10,000. I'm not saying to buy these coins, but what I am saying is have a look at market caps, do the kind of due diligence kind of that I've done there, take these things into consideration, and you can potentially get yourself to that first $10,000. So yeah, hopefully that's enough value for you guys, and thank you very much.